Hey everybody, I'm Paul. I'm a heroin addict.
Hey, Paul!
I have a sponsor. My sponsor has a sponsor. I sponsor other guys in this fellowship and in another 12-step program. I have a home group. I do service at that home group, and I have a higher power that keeps me sober every day. And I say that stuff because that's what got me sober, and that's what keeps me sober. I grew up in a small town near here. I was definitely like the odd kid out. Moved around a lot when I was a kid. Never had like the sense of like, belonging like that I was always looking for. So when I got older, like I developed like this identity like that I was like some kind of like pothead, and I was like, this is great, like everybody thinks this, and like I had never actually smoked weed. I just kind of went with it, and eventually, I had to, do those things to, be part of those groups. And, I found that, it gave me, a confidence that, I always wanted. And, I finally felt part of somewhere. Fast forward through, most of, high school. It was, getting arrested and, doing probation, doing, outpatient treatments. The progression of drugs, went further and further down the line. It was 11th grade. I found myself doing all kinds of prescription drugs, ecstasy. But I found that opiates was the thing that I really liked. I had a crazy sense of confidence. I could get all this work done, and I could just do my thing, it just made my thoughts flow more clearly. And I just went to school every day high, and I wouldn't go to school if I didn't have drugs. I failed, I want to say I failed math class that year. I failed English, and I failed gym somehow. You just don't go to school, I guess. There's probably other stuff I failed I'm just forgetting, but my senior year of high school, I had to take gym twice, English twice. I had to take math. You're not even supposed to take math as a senior. I remember, all these people had, these awesome plans. They were I'm going to this college to, study this thing, and, I'm going to go, live in a dorm, and, I'm going to become a doctor, or, whatever. And, my best plan was to work at a restaurant and, just get high every night, and, it just consumed my life. After graduation, I had no ambition to do anything other than, just get high. And eventually, at that point, I had found that, I just wanted to do opiates. And it was mostly, Oxy or, whatever prescription painkiller I could get my hands on. I'd become, good friends with, the people who were doing that stuff, at least I thought, they were my friends. I was definitely, the kid that, would get you high, I was definitely the person, with money, if you would accept me into your group of friends. Anyway, so it was, 2012, I graduated high school, and for about 2 solid years, all I did was get high, and work. And I had this girlfriend, and I remember always telling her I'm gonna stop, I don't want to do the narcotics anymore. And I always meant it, and I was I'm just gonna smoke weed, weed isn't bad. And I meant it with every fiber of my being that I wasn't gonna do this anymore. And then there I was, and I had no solid explanation to myself, or anybody else, why I continued to do this, if it was harming me. Fast forward to 2014, she leaves me, big surprise to me, obviously, threw me into a crazy depression. And I'd always known people that had done heroin, but I'd never really gotten into it too much. I just knew that I would like it a lot. I'll never forget the first time I did heroin. I stole $50 out of my sister's purse, and I drove to Schenectady with this kid, and we bought half a bundle of dope, and I got high for the first time, and I remember feeling this was it. I had arrived. like, this is what I needed to do with my life. Like, you know, like, I've been searching this out forever. I had lost my job at that point. You know, like, I didn't have anything, you know, like, I had, like, drugs and, like, no soul, and I was just, like, depressed. But I chased dope for a couple months, like, just sniffing it, and, like, told myself, like, okay, it's not that big of a deal, like, I'm not using a needle, you know, like, and I remember watching people, like, shoot up and, like, seeing them, you know, like, so, like, frantic and, like, just, like, uneasy and, like, trying to get it done, and, like, I didn't understand, so, of course, I had to try it, and that's when it, like, this thing, like, really took off for me, you know, like, because I never thought, like, when I was young, like, oh, like, I'll smoke some weed, like, I never thought, like, I'd end up shooting heroin, you know, like, that was the last thing, you know, because, like, I just remember, like, telling, like, counselors as a young teenager, like, you know, like, yeah, but, like, that's not going to be me, you know, like, I'm not going to, like, take it to that extreme, and at a certain point, like, I just didn't have a choice anymore, you know, like, it's just the way it happened. But for about, like, 7-8 months, I was, like, shooting dope and just, like, lying to everybody and, like, stealing from my family, committing crimes, like, whatever I had to do to, like, get more dope. I like to call it, like, my first direct hit with reality, like, in, like, 7 years. That's what my first sponsor used to call it. Like, I crashed a car in 2015. I still don't remember what happened. I just woke up, like, out of a blackout, and I hit another car with 3 old women in it, and, like, this kid that was with me, we were, like, you know, like, doing our thing to, like, get high, and, like, that was the last time I ever saw him, and, you know, like, it was just the first time when I could say, like, I really, like, was, like, faced with what was going on in my life, you know, like, where I really, like, got to see it, like, firsthand and believed it, you know, like, because for a long time I just, like, told myself lies and, like, convinced myself it wasn't that big of a deal. From there, I went to a detox, and I went to a 28-day rehab, and in there, they told me about, like, spirituality and, like, the higher power stuff and, like, AA, and I had never really heard of AA, and, you know, like, it just, like, it didn't really appeal to me. Like, I wasn't really interested in it. Like, I kind of just went because it seemed like the right thing to do, and I figured, like, okay, like, I won't, like, get in as much, like, legal trouble. Like, my family will leave me alone, and, like, you know, like, basically because the heat was on, and, in there, I heard a speaker, like, talk about going to, like, long-term treatment, and, like, you know, I knew that I didn't want to, like, shoot heroin anymore, but, like, I, like, still wanted to shoot heroin, you know, like, I was, like, caught in between, like, I was on the fence about it, like, I wanted to, like, be able to get high, but I didn't want all the consequences, like, of like, doing that stuff, and, I eventually decided to go to, like, a halfway house, like, even though I didn't want to at all. It was, like, the scariest thing in my life, you know, like, I was, like, 21 years old, like, freshly sober after, like, 7 years of just, like, doing drugs and, like, living like an animal, and, like, they're just like, here, like, here's this halfway house in your hometown, and, like, you could, like, just live there, and, like, there's all these people you don't know, and, like, here, like, go to AA and, like, get a sponsor and all this stuff, and, like, it was horrible, you know, like, I had, like, gained, like, 40 pounds, I was just super sweaty and, like, scared of the entire world, and, in that house, after a couple months, I got a sponsor, I got a home group, and, I started, like, doing the deal, and my life got better, and, you know, like, I met people my age, like, in Young People and Alcoholics Anonymous, like, that was a big part of my early sobriety, you know, like, seeing a lot of people that were my age who, like, had years of sobriety, because I didn't think it was possible, you know, like, I just thought it was, like, a crock of shit, you know, like, that people were just lying, you know, and I especially didn't think people my age got sober, and, for a few months, like, I did, like, the 1, 2, 3, like, I did, like, the first step, the second step, and the third step, like, a couple times, and, I remember, like, writing an inventory and, like, not really being convinced that, like, it was going to, like, keep me sober, or, like, that it was going to work, like that I did it correctly, and I was like so obsessed with like catching everything like that ever happened in my life and like writing down every resentment like I ever had, and I kind of just like half-assed it, like in half measures avail us nothing. I remember doing a fifth step and then lying about doing the 6 and 7, like, and looking back, like in hindsight, like, like what is my, like, of course, like the guy who was sponsoring me like might care, but like, like I'm really only hurting myself like when I lie about stuff like that. And it wasn't like 2 weeks later I decided that like I had a better plan, and like I went and got a job and like said like screw like this whole AA thing. And it was like 2 weeks after that I got high. And it's like they say, like, you just pick up right where you left off, and it was like I was right there again, like, and even worse, really, like I was doing more stuff, like I was like willing to commit like more heinous crimes to like get what I wanted, like I just didn't care. I'd gotten mixed up with this kid at the halfway house, and we like were using together, and he was like this seasoned criminal, like, and we were like doing all sorts of stuff. But what scared me the most was that like I wanted to stop like after a couple months, and like I couldn't stop, that's when like I began to be convinced that like, okay, like maybe like these people like were like, maybe there's some truth to like what they're saying to me, like maybe this is a real thing. And I carried on like that for a couple months. Like I had to like get 2 days and like then get high, or like go to a treatment program and like detox and like decide that like I didn't want to be there anymore and leave. And eventually like I got arrested again. And it used to be like really like scary to say this in front of people, but me and this kid stole a purse from an old lady. Like it was insanity. Like, like looking back, like I can't believe I did that, but it's like a fact about like where like heroin addiction brings me. Like I'll do anything to like get another bag. And it was like 5 minutes after we stole it from her, we got arrested, and then it was like, like that sense of relief that like it was over, like I was like cuffed, like, and like I'm the type of heroin addict who has to be like secluded from society to stop doing this, like I have to be taken out of the world to like and like locked up to stop, like it. And at the time, like it was like a power greater than myself, I guess, like in a way. But I spent like a month in jail, like pleaded with my family to like have them help me like get into a treatment program. I went back to the same rehab I had gone to about a year prior to that, and I went to a different halfway house, like a little farther away from where I was from, where I'm from. But I remember like, like just thinking to myself like, okay, like, like I need to like do this thing. Like I was like absolutely convinced that I had like alcoholism, heroin addiction. I just call it alcoholism because it's like easier that way. And like I just got out and I got involved, like I did like the steps, like I lived like the triangle, like unity, service, recovery, like I made the friends in the fellowship, like I did stuff with them outside of AA, like I did the service work, like I got the sponsor and did the steps, and like I wrote like an honest inventory, and I prayed every day, and like I just did this stuff like my life depended on it, because it did, like, and it still does. Eventually, like, like I wrote like an inventory, read it to somebody, and like I've made like a decent amount of amends. Like I'm still working on it, and I'm at the point like where I can help other people and like reach my hand out, like, because there was people here that like did a lot for me when I came in, and like they didn't have to do that. And I just make a point to like be there for people because I know like how much it meant to me. Over the last 2 years of my life, like my life has exploded and like become like amazing. Like I'm a college student, like I have a job that I show up to, like I have friends that don't like hate me and like I don't steal from, like my family wants me at their house, like you know, like I'm truly happy, you know, I have like a sufficient solution to like my life today other than heroin, you know, like I was taught like how to live my life again, and it's been like a really beautiful experience. So I'm just wicked grateful. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.